Namaste. I, Vijaya Hariharan, on behalf of the Yoga Bharati team, welcome you all to this panel discussion on the third day of the Yoga Bharati anniversary celebrations. So sit comfortably. Let us start with the prayer. See that your back, neck, head is aligned. Eyes gently closed. Fingers in chin mudra, thumb touching the index finger. Bring the awareness to the breath. Observe the normal breathing for a few rounds. Bring the palms together in Namaskara Mudra. Let us chant 3 rounds of Omkara. Each time breathe in, breathe out, continue with the Om chanting. Inhale. Om. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vitvishavahay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Divi bhumau tatha kashe bahirantascha me vibhu yo vibhatyavabhasatma tasmai sarvatmane namah. Welcome. Once again, welcome you all to this third day of the Yoga Bharati celebrations. I extend a warm welcome to the dignitaries for today. Dr. Ramchandra Bhatt ji, Professor Sridhar, Yogashri Raghuram ji, and also Dr. Ramakrishna. So last 2 days we have had these different talks from the ideas from the Yoga VAsishta, giving us a knowledge about the concept of mind, the concept of body, the concept of consciousness from the Yoga VAsishta text. See, here the teachings are in the form of a dialogue between sage Vasishta and Sri Rama. Sri Rama, after he finished his education, when he was back to his palace in Ayodhya, on his way he saw that, old people who were suffering, a person who had just died, and people were taking him away. So he was, dejected, and he was in a state of melancholy, didn't know what was happening. So, and then I believe he went back to a state where he was not interacting with anybody. So that is when the people around saw and, went to Dashratha saying that, Rama, I don't know what has happened to him. So I think we need some guidance, somebody to guide Rama so that he comes out of this melancholy that he is going through. So that is when sage Vasishta was approached, and he gives his teaching to Sri Rama, which is in the form of the text of Yoga VAsishta, which we saw for the last 2 days. Few of the ideas from that I'm just sharing. So here they say that the root cause of this chitta vikshepa is the agitations in the mind, is because we are associating with things which are impermanent. So the solution given is, can we put our mind, or can we put dhyana into something which is of a higher consciousness, which is of a in that of a permanent nature, and that they are saying is the Brahman. And to do that, they are saying first, it's also important that we take care of the body, slow down the prana, and once the prana slows down, the mind automatically calms down. And once the mind is calmed down, we can be in that Shanta Sthiti, Ekanta Sthiti, and from there we do our dhyana on the higher reality and then realize that Brahman. So not taking much of a time, I also will introduce our special guest for today, Vidwan Dr. Ramachandra Bhatt. Humble pranams to you, sir. So today's, Dr. Ramachandra Bhatt is the Vice Chancellor of the Swami Vivekananda Anusandhana Samsthana and also the Director of the Veda Vijnana Gurukulam. He has been the principal of this school, Gurukulam, for the last 12 years. He firmly believes that the Gurukula system of education is the best to inculcate a good value system in young minds and also for the physical and the mental development. His basic qualification is he has an MA and PhD in Sanskrit, and he is also a Vidwan in Vedanta and Nyaya Darshanam. Few of his papers are also published in the International Journal of Yoga. He is also the spiritual guide for the School of Philosophy in Dublin, in Ireland. So welcome, sir. Once again, I welcome all the panelists of today, Dr. Ramchandra Bhatt, Professor Sridhar, Yoga Shri Raghuramji, and Dr. Ramakrishna. And before that, let us have the song for today by Vikram. So I invite Vikram to have a small song on Rama.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I am Vikram. I will be singing Meluko Vaya, the Ragam Baudi. Meluko Vaya, Meluko Rama, Meluko Vaya, Meluko Rama, Melaina Sita Samedana Bhagyama, Meluko Vayamam, Meluko Rama, Melaina Sita Samedana Bhagyama, Meluko Vayamam. నారదారులు నిన్ను కోరిని మహిమన వారిగా నారి పూడు తెల్ల వారగా బాచినది శ్రీరామనవనీత వారగా బాచినది శ్రీరామనవనీత క్షీరములు బాగుగాన్ ఆరగింపనువే క్షీరములు బాగుగాన్ ఆరగింపనువే మేలుకో వయ్యమం మేలుకోరా మేలుకో వయ్యా రాజరాజేశ్వర హరాజముఖ సాకి రాజనుత చరణ రాజన్య విభుత గణ రాజాదులెల్ల నిన్ను రాజన్య విభుత గణ రాజాదులెల్ల నిన్ను పూజింపగాచిన ఈ జగము పాలింప పూజింపగాచిన ఈ జగము పాలింప మేలుకోవయ్యమం మేలుకోరాం మేలైన సీత సమేదన భాగ్యం మేలుకోవయ్యా. Thank you.
So thank you, Vikram, for a nice song. It's a beautiful song which says that, "Oh Rama, get up, the day is dawned." And along with Sita, so other sage Narada and the others are singing about the glory of Sri Rama and also they're expecting, soliciting his grace. So now over to Ramchandra, Professor Ramchandra Bhattji, to start the panel discussion.
Can you just give a brief idea how much time has been allotted and what is that order to be followed by the speakers, and as a chairman of this session, whether to talk now only whatever to be conveyed, or is it to conclude afterwards? Only these things you can just share with me first.
Okay, Raghuramji, would you like to answer him?
Pranam Pujya Ramchandra
Pranam.
Bhattji.
Okay, Shubham.
Wonderful occasion. Unexpectedly, now I have the Shanta speaking. It's a lovely occasion.
Okay, nice.
Because our association with Ramchandra Bhattji goes to 40, 50 years. And ever since Shastriji was there, we were all with him. And
Right.
very nicely that we were exchanging various ideas from that time. And actually, Yoga VAsishta, as I was expressing yesterday, it also brings about a beautiful memory of Shastriji, because Yoga VAsishta is a fond text of Shastriji. And who is the person now who could be more suitable for chairing a panel discussion than our Vidwan Ramchandra Bhattji? And so therefore that we collected it. In the beginning, that we might have about 10-15 minutes of initial introduction from your point of view. What is this Yoga VAsishta, and what is it with reference to? What is the practical Yoga Vedanta that we have? All these things. But because another particular important thing that Ramchandra Bhattji I would like to bring about is, because your vast knowledge about various scriptures that are there, I would like to see that these days yoga is being drifted towards the therapy more and more. So I would like you to please emphasize on the sadhana and personal growth aspect of it with the help of Yoga VAsishta, initially for about 15 minutes when you say, and after that we will go to the other panelists, and from our Dr. Ramakrishna is there, then he will put in his ideas, discussions about that, and then afterwards I will request Sridhar Melkote to give his ideas in the panel, maybe summing up all the ideas that he has given the last 2 days. And then I will also be there at the last to give. And if by that time, if we have any question answered, that we will have it. So each one of us, we will take for about 20 minutes of time, 20 to 30 minutes of time, 20 minutes of time, so that what happens is that we are having 2 hours of time. So finally, we are left with about 15 to 20 minutes. If there are any questions that we can take up. And finally, winding up, I would request Ramchandra Bhattji to give about 20 minutes of his overall, once again, view, a complete view of the whole thing, so that what we would like to have is the final message of the seminar people can carry with them from Ramchandra Bhattji. Thank you.
Om नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Indian knowledge source, Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. This is a very well projected idiom word, nomenclature nowadays in the arena of cognitive seekers, sadhakas. Bharatiya Jnana Parampara originated from the holiest Ganga of Gomukha. That Gomukha, where we get that purest Ganga, Tirtham, that is the Vedas, Ruka, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. My journey starts from that source. In our order, in Indian traditional knowledge, lineage as such, the Vedas are the Gangotri, Arthat, it is Gomukha Ganga. That comes to Gangotri, afterwards it comes to Rudraprayag, then Devaprayag, Vishnuprayag, like that. Ganga starts flowing on the very flat area in Rishikesh, Haridwar. That is how this knowledge source gets widened, more evidence-based, more experimented, more evaluated. Like that, it goes on purifying unaccountable villages, people, every part of Manu, Renu, Trina, Kastha, living and non-living. That is how Ganga reaches that oceanic, big, most infinite arena. So, in that order, the real yoga is Nachiketa yoga. Now we are discussing about Vasishta yoga. See this beauty, insight embedded in this. What is the Nachiketa? Nachiketa yoga, that is there in Kathopanishad. Even still previous, that knowledge, cognitive source is Rigveda. There also again we have that journey projected. In the Nasadiya Sukta, some seeker goes on searching and searching, unearthing the reality. There are also many seekers in Rigvedic tradition. Even 17 Rishikas, 17 three Nari Rishis. They are all yogis, yoginis. And that is called Samhita, Brahmanam, Aranyakam, and Upanishad. If you go to Aranyaka, in Mahanarayana Upanishad, very great such yogi is projected in Prajapatyoha Arunihi Suparneyaha. That yogi is called Suparneya. His guru is Prajapati. Prajapatyoha Aruni Suparneya Prajapatim Pitaram Upasasara. Kim Bhagavanta Paramam Vadanti. What is that highest? What is that zenith, climax, crescendo of this achievement, yogic achievement? That with that question, that young seeker Suparneya goes to Prajapati, then that dialogue takes place. That is beautifully projected in Mahanarayana Upanishad. So that is Prajapati Yoga. See this beauty. So Prajapati Yoga in Aranyaka, Taittiriya Aranyaka. So Gritsamada Yoga in Rigveda. Like that, when we come to the Upanishads, where we are more focused, 10 major Upanishads repeatedly we mention. There some Yoga Upanishads, as you know, That is Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Narasimhatapini, Paramahamsa Upanishad. Like that Kathopanishad, there we can see that young yogic seeker, very great personality, that is Nachiketa. So with all those questions, Anyatra dharmad, anyatra adharmad, anyatra asmat krata kratat, anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha, yattat pashyasi tadvada. That is how he goes on asking questions. What is that beyond mind, beyond the body? That means transdisciplinary in this modern technology, educational technology. Now multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and above all, that is called transdisciplinary. That transdisciplinary journey well portrayed in the whole Kathopanishad, in that whole gamut of the text in between, in the dialogue, form of dialogue between Dharmaraja and young seeker. So there, that is Adhyatma Yoga Adhikamena Devam Matva Dhiru Harsha Shoko Jahati. That is how that inside Adhyatma Yoga word is used. And the whole text is called Yoga Vidhincha Kritsanam. That is how that Upanishad is concluded. This is real Ganga of Gomukha, the purest Ganga Tirtha. That purity, it is available, seen somewhere up to Gangotri, even up to the Prayag, but after that, we know many waters, even sometime gutter water all come. That is how sometimes that pollution is there. But the purest Tirtha, Ganga Tirtha, it is there in Kathopanishad and Shvetashvatara, many other Upanishads. This is one. Later on, for the convenience of seekers like us, people of this Kali Yuga, whose mind is very much controlled, very much biased, very much full of syndromes, phobia, mania, this and that. All great seekers, they made this pure Ganga with so much water, because we were not so much capable of taking that original medicine of Ayurveda from the rose roots, fruits and all these things. Then even doctors like Ramakrishna, they go for some people-friendly technology so that they prepare some capsule of Ayurvedic. Because Danta Shakti is weak. So when as that Danta Shakti is becoming weaker and weaker, Ayurveda doctors also prepare some kashaya or something, what to say, even capsule now. Ayurvedic doctors also prescribing Ayurvedic capsule. Like that for us, all great Maharshis like Vasishta and other Swatmarama, all they made it user-friendly for us. Because when something is in the form of a dialogue, or somewhere it is more and more experiential, or someone like Vasishta having experimented in his own real life, shares his knowledge to someone who is considered to be an incarnation of Mahavishnu, but he also becomes vulnerable to melancholy. Our madam used that word melancholy. This melancholy, numbness, these words I have seen in Shelley's poetry. These are all modern problems. They were not problems of our rishis. And so nowadays, the most popular word in the arena, health arena, it is depression, it is disappointment, disgust, despair, all these series of these. We are vulnerable to all these things. That too, in this post-pandemic, we are always talking about only diseases, illness, syndromes, phobia, mania, etc. What to say? But that Rishi age of Krita Yuga, where that young man like Suparnaya, like Nachiketa, they were the real models for yogic practices. See this. So that from that age, when you come to Krita Treta, if you take Krita Yuga, even Prahlada, Dhruva, Nachiketa, all these young seekers, great sadhakas are there. Their story is very much projected in our scriptures, in the Vedas also, followed by other Puranas, followed by other Smriti Granthas. These are all Puranic. But Purana means it is not that something mythology word, I don't want to use it. In this mythology word, it is just like Chandamama stories. It is there somewhere in Greek literature and this and that. But our Purana is not like that. Sarkascha Pratisarkascha Manvantaranicha Vamshanucharitam Cheti Puranam Panchalakshanam. Puranas are not just some imaginary stories. They are all very much symbolic. They just spread that insightful spiritual messages. But just for easy understanding, convenience of seekers, they are projected in the form of stories and in the form of poetries, easy poetries, prepared in the different attractive meters like Anushtup, Trishtup, Jagat, Brati, like that we know all this. Mainly these two meters are very easy. One is Anushtup, where we have 4 padas comprising 8 syllables in each lines. No, normally that is called Karika. Karikas are normally they are composed in the meter that is called Anushtup. Bhagavad Gita also it is like that. But in Bhagavad Gita also there are some many slokas. They are Sakheti Matva Prasabham Yaduktam He Krishna He Yadava. These are all in Trishtup Chandas. Or it is called Indra Vajra, Upendra Vajra Vruttam. It is called in Sanskrit. Okay. However, these meters are also very easy, these two. In the same time, whatever language used in our Puranas like Agni Purana, Vishnu Purana, very, very lucid, beautiful, lucid Sanskrit. Nothing jugglery, no difficulty, no structural compactness, nothing. No linguistic intricacies, this, that, no. Very beautifully flowing water type, Pampa Sarovara, water type projection of thoughts that is there in all these Purana literature, what to say. So that beauty we can see in this Yoga VAsishta. So it is beautifully structured yogic epic as such. That is why Rama here plays the role of Arjuna, or plays the role of Nachiketa, or the role of Suparanaya. So that is what that ground is prepared. Ground, Ranga Sajjika, it is. Rama was just he was just in contact with common men and going around exchanging his thoughts. He was Raja Rama, as you know, Praja Abhiramaha. So he was not somewhere in the 4 structured walls. Though he was son of an emperor, he was just interacting and exchanging and moving to all village, because that was the village-oriented society. He was visiting villages, and he got some feedback. That was about their problems, day-to-day problem of Aam Admi, Aam Khane Wala Admi. Ordinary man, one who just is very much oriented in eating roti kapda makan, some such people. But people of that time, they were not like this type of roti kapda makan wale, but however, ordinary people, common men. So there he succumbed to this type of melancholy. So that was noticed by his master, his preceptor, his mentor, Vasishta, because he was the mentor for the whole dynastic order of Surya Vamsha. And he came to know Rama is in some sort of depression, or what to say, mental agony, yes, you can say. So in this background, how he started that, what to say, he's sharing. It is neither sermon nor some preaching. It is just exchanging. So that all upakyanas, Lila Upakyana and other upakyanas are there. Actually, this is the real handbook for that Jivan Mukta Yatra. Yes, we are all yatris, travelers, but we are Bhukta Yatris, Bhoga Yatris in this world. But there are three types of yatris according to Vedanta. That is Jivan Mukta Yatri and Krama Mukti Yatrarthi, and Sadhya Mukta Yatrarthi is not at all a Yatrarthi, because Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. As soon as he becomes enlightened man, he becomes beyond body, beyond mind. It is purely transdisciplinary journey that is called Sadhya Mukti. For Sadhya Mukta people, there is no connection. But these people, they knowingly, they are in this world and very active in this worldly affairs, having participated actively in day-to-day problems, ups and downs, they come with their experiential knowledge. Such people, they can remove others' melancholy also. That is why Vasishta, Vashetishthati Vasishta, already totally self-controlled man. And being Grihastha, Pati of Varundhati, and son of many seekers, greater seekers, and who was even sometime fighting with many seekers like Vishwamitra. But in this type of condition also, always maintained his equilibrium of the mind. And his shock absorber was so strong. Shock absorber, that is the word of popular word, shock absorber for big lorries. And even though there will be shocks, that because of that mechanism, that lorry will never fall or never be shaken, and it comes down and up, and normalcy is maintained. That is how shock absorber works in every big lorries and all these vehicles. Like that, Vasishta got that very wonderful inbuilt shock absorber. So with that much balance and equilibrium and shock absorber inbuilt in his personality, he is the real mentor to address Rama's problems, Rama's mental problems. That is Mana Prashamana. This is Prashamana. It is very interesting, you know. Now we have various kinds of minds before us, even our own mind. I put it in B formula. It is burning inside, boiling outside. People always, they burn inside due to so many problems. And sometime that will be coming out, outburst will be there. They become unrest and they start quarreling and blaming others. That type of unrested burning mind, burning inside, boiling outside. This is one type of mind. This is very rogi mind. But yogi mind is altogether basically different. That is what? It is blooming, blossoming. See, B, that B, to burning, boiling mind versus blooming, blossoming mind. It is the order of the day. Early in the morning, our people, even urban people, also get very sweet coffee and some sweet words around. Then their mind will be blooming. But some unwanted something, some news comes, someone blames, some call comes. It is something very unexpected. then immediately mind starts boiling, burning inside, boiling outside. That is how these are the order of the days. In this type of scenario, global scenario, we are now taking this great magnum opus, Yoga VAsishta. That is why it is very relevant. I am very much happy, proud of you all organizers, and that to see Raghuramji, always very balanced, present approach. He continuously, just like a leaves behind a big banyan tree, he has been rendering his service. That is, I am very happy. So with this much small introductory sharing, I just conclude. Thank you very much. Sarvebhyaha swagatam, shubha swagatam, shubhamastu. Now I am very curious to listen to our great professors. Just I am witnessing them and happy to enlighten me. Shubham. Swasti.
Thank you, Ramchandraji, for enlightening us as to the way we can, in Bhagavad Gita also, Shri Krishna says that mind can be our friend as well as it can be our enemy. So you beautifully put it as a B formula, burning inside and boiling outside, as well as blooming and blossoming. So thank you so much for that B formula, giving us the B formula. So now, and since you said that one of the, I think, most important, the definition of mana prashamana was given by Yoga VAsishta. So if our other two speakers can also share their ideas about this mana prashamana. So over to Professor Sridhar. You have to unmute, sir. You are muted.
Namas Sadase Sadasaspataye. Salutations to Acharya ji, Ramchandra Bhatt ji, and also Yogashri Dr. Raghuram ji for giving me this opportunity to speak. Actually, Ramchandra Bhatt ji has lessened our burden as he has already traced the concept of yoga as embedded from the times of the Vedas through the Puranas, the epics, as well as the Bhagavad Gita, and to the Yoga VAsishta. So he has elaborated upon the various aspects as to how these concepts, which were present in a dormant fashion from the times of the Vedas, have been developed very well in this Arsha Ramayana, also called as Vasishta Ramayana or Valmiki Ramayana. Of course, Valmiki Ramayana is there, but this is the Vasishta Ramayana. So here, as we see in this, the enlarged edition of the Yoga VAsishta consisting of 32,000 verses, I don't want to go into the origin and evolution and the context in which it was written, as it has already been explicitly explained by our Acharya Bhatt ji with his experience and insight. So what I would like to concentrate here is that this Yoga VAsishta, through so many narratives, so many sub-narratives, akhyanas and upakhyanas, and so many stories, kathas, and even through some of the didactic fables or Pashupakshi kathas, elaborates upon the three major things: body, mind, consciousness. Under that head, you can see various subsections and subheads. So generally, as elaborated, according to Yoga VAsishta, which is in the form of a dialogue between Brahmarshi Vasishta and his ardent disciple Sri Rama, who was in a state of pensive mood, like that of Arjuna, Vishada in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana, and in the Mahabharata. In the same way, we find the pensive and the dejected state of Rama, for which Dasharatha summoned, requested Brahmarshi Vasishta, who gave wonderful advice through various forms of dialogue and upakhyanas and narratives. Here, the emphasis is that Rama asked several questions, which is the very important thing where inquisitiveness of the mind is very, very important. Questioning and questioning, tadvidhi pariprashnena. So to ask it by repeated questioning, as told in the Bhagavad Gita. So that questioning is elaborated here by Rama. He speaks and tells Brahmarshi Vasishta that why he should live. What is the purpose of this body? Why should we live? This body consisting of 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs, manas, buddhi, ahankara, is a seat for various mental and physical diseases. The disease arises in the mind, so adhi, then when it gets percolated to the body, it becomes vyadhi. So why should we have this? And the whole life is full of, O's, worms. It is like a worm eating ourselves from within and without. So I'm not interested in this life, he says. So here, Rama initially is comparing the body to a tree in a big forest, and this body has so many branches like that the branches of a tree and various parts of the tree. So he finally says that at the end, as the tree decays, in the same fashion, the body decays, as told in our scriptures and also in the Ayurveda. Shiryate anena iti shariram. Shiryate, it gets deteriorated, it gets emaciated. So why should we give so much of emphasis to the body? Although it is being given so much importance in the European philosophy as man is a measure of all things. And even now in the European hemisphere, in America and other places, where they go for an extreme body makeover. Is it required? Should we worry so much about the body? No. He says it is not at all admissible. Of course, Vasishta endorses that. Sage Vasishta says, you are right, Rama, but only through the body we should move on to the next dimension, that is manas. Shariramadhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. If there is no body, how can we procure and do the righteous activities? So that is very much required. But we should know the limitations, the strength and weaknesses of the body and move further. Next, they elaborate upon from the Bhutakasha, that is the physical sphere. He moves on to, Brahmarshi Vasishta moves on to the Chittakasha. The Chittakasha consists of Chitta or the mind. Although in a very broad way it is translated as mind, it has so many things included. In fact, Vasishta says that it includes various aspects. Manohi bhavana matram, bhavana spandha dharmini, kriya tadbhavita rupam, phalam sarvonu dhavati. So this mind has two feelings, namely action and results. Mind is action. And when it is activated, when it acts, the result, we get the result. Before that, it is an admixture of feelings, bhavana, and it throbs, spanda, and it has the nature of spanda or throbbing, means fickle and frail in nature. Mind can never keep quiet because we are getting influence, we are getting thoughts, ideas, good, bad, ugly from outside. So how can the mind be so stable and calm? Although the basic nature of the mind is calm and quiet and transparent, like what Lao Tse told to his students in China through his morning walk, stroll, the basic nature of the chitta is calmness, quietness, serenity and tranquility. But because we are getting thoughts from outside, good, bad, ugly, lot of ideas, and we are impacted by people, places and things, so mind gets agitated, chitta vikshobha. So it becomes a repository for the word coined by our Ramchandra Bhattji in Bhagavad Gita, chingshobha, chikshobha or chingshobha, chinta, kshobha, bhaya. So that it gets affected, and because of that the world is created. So it is nothing but a projection. The world itself
Sir, you got muted. Sridhar sir.
Shankara has told that the mind basically, see, it is the whole world which we are seeing outside experiencing is only a projection of our mind and consciousness, and it assumes various forms and positions and names, appellation based upon context, situations, people, places and things. Vasishta says in Utpatti Prakarana, Manobuddhir ahankaras chittam karmatha kalpana samsrishti vasana vidya prayatta smrutirevacha indriyam prakriti maya kriya cheti tara api chitra shabdo tayo brahman samsara brahmahetavaha. See, means mind, that is manas, buddhi or intelligence, egoism, ahankara, chitta, which is a combination of all three with that of smruti or remembrance, and part of consciousness, chit, imagination, kalpana, right remembrance, samsmruti, smruti is remembrance, samyak smruti, samsmruti, mental impressions or samskaras or vasanas, which I told you yesterday, Shankaracharya calls it as vasana sarit, a continuous flow of the vasanas or the mental impressions from the first life of our prarabdha karma to the present. Knowledge, jnana, great effort, prayatna, prakarsha yatna, prayatna, the 5 sense organs, that is, you know it very well, the primordial nature or prakriti with all its panchendriyas, rasa tanmatras, the 5 jnanendriyas, the 5 karmendriyas, the mahat buddhi ahankara as elaborated in the Sankhya philosophy. And more important, the maya, illusion, appears to be real but unreal, as told by Shankaracharya in his Brahma Sutra Shankara Bhashya, adhyasa, atasmin tadbuddhi paratra purva drushtava bhasaha. The whole world is nothing but a maya or an imagination. It is intricately associated with Brahman, just as the jiva is associated with the Jagat. So these are the different names of the mind according to Brahmarshi Vasishta. So Chitta Kasha consists of all these things, and this has to be got rid of. But very difficult, because the mind has powerful sankalpa, vikalpa sankalpa. In fact, he says, Yat kinchidapi sankalpat naro dukke nimajjati, nakinchidapi sankalpat sukamakshayamashmute. Means, when a person makes a determination or a conviction himself.
Sir, again you've got muted.
So that ultimately drives him to samsara and to unhappiness and dukkha. So then, like Buddha, he has to say, Sarvam Dukkhamayam Jagat. What a pity for Lord Buddha. Then, if a person does not make any sankalpa or conviction or determination, then he is going to enjoy the infinite eternal bliss. So, sankalpa is very important. And that sankalpa drives us. Vishayesh vavishesh chetaha sankalpayati tadgunam samyak sankalpanat kamaha kamat pumsaha pravartanam. So, this chitta or the mind stuff or the mind apparatus, when enters the objects of pleasure, bhoga vastus, and it starts thinking about the continuous happiness, about the it thinks that it is enjoying the perennial happiness, and it gets throbbed. So there is spanda in the body, spanda in the mind, spanda in our activities. This desire or this ichcha forces a man to be active and dynamic in nature. Tatas swarupa vibhramsho vibrashtastu patatyadaha patitasya vinanasham punar naroha ikshrute. Ikshate sankalpam varjayet tasmat sarvan arthasya karanam. This is what Brahmarshi Vasishta declares, that for all the series of calamity in this world, including the COVID-19, and to be very greedy, to expand that greediness, all this is the result of the sankalpa. Therefore, we should leave this sankalpa. So after leaving the sankalpa, we should leave the vasana, he says. Vasanas are the mental impressions of our previous birth, and it may be good, bad, and ugly. As it is elaborated, this vasana which comes in our karana sharira passes on from one generation to another, from one life to another, through the genes, which you call it as genes, I should say, through hereditary succession, drives us to worldly life, drives us to samsara. We should get rid of these vasanas. Yasya maurkhyam kshayam yatam sarvam brahmeti bhavana nodeti vasanatasya pragnasyambu matirmarau. See, he says, if once we understand, as told by our Acharya ji, that Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati, when we get that knowledge that the whole world is full of absolute consciousness, total consciousness called Parabrahman or Chaitanya, which is of the nature of Shuddha Buddha Nitya Mukta Swabhavaha Chaitanyam, then all our foolishness, this is what the word Vasishta uses, Maukhyam, Murkhasya Bhavaha Maukhyam. So that is get destroyed. And when that is destroyed, a scholarly person can, he need not search for the water in the desert. For him, there are no vasanas. So finally, we should get rid of vasanas. Vasanasam parityagat chittam gachyatya chittatam pranaspandha nirodhacha yathechasi tatha kuru. He says, we have to check and control our prana, which was elaborated by Yoga Sri Raghuramji in his Prana Niruddha lecture yesterday. So we have to check and control this vital prana, and living the vasanas and living the desire and the mamakara about the body. Chitta will lose its nature. Chitta gets dissolved in Chidakasha. And when the mind gets dissolved in Chitta, and when Chitta gets dissolved in Chidakasha or absolute consciousness, you can be happy and joyful, and you enjoy the Satya, that Satchidananda Swarupa, which is our basic nature. And after that, whatever the activities you do, all these activities will have no bearing upon us. And for that, ultimately, we have to check and control the mind, which can be done in 7 ways, as told by Brahmarshi Vasishta. First is realization of its unreality, the unreality of the universe and the world through philosophical deliberations. That's what we are doing now. Vakyartha, Tattvartha. Second, avoidance of the imagination of daydreaming. People, it's called Sankalpocheda. So we should stop daydreaming. The third is distaste for the objects of sensual pleasures, sense pleasures, Shabda Sparsha Rasarupa Gandha. Then renunciation of all desires, Tyaga of the desire, Manas, Sankalpa. Eradication of the feelings of the ego that I am supreme, I only can do this. Practice of detachment called Asanga Abhyasa or Asanga Abhyasa. Attainment of equanimity or Samata Bhava. Mental renunciation of whatever the position we have, every position to be finally given up. Finally, practice of constant samadhi. So continuous thing through the meditation, turning inward and experiencing the Chidakasha, which is the vast sphere like that of ocean and the space, which has no beginning or the end. In the same fashion, we experience that Brahmanness, that spark of the divine, that speck of the Brahman consciousness, and the joy in this life, as told by Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, here and now. So this is what Brahmarshi elaborated, sage elaborated. So at the end of that, in Nirvana Prakarana, the last section, Rama got enlightened, like Buddha under the shade of the tree of in Bodhi tree in Saranath. He got enlightened. Once he got enlightened, then Brahmarshi Vasishta says, engage in the royal duties. Do the royal duties without getting attached. Engage in the royal pleasures, but don't get attached. Be totally detached from all these things so that you will not become a party to the vasana, you will not become a party to the papa or the punya, so that you get liberated. So this is what I learned from the lotus feet of Sri Ramchandra Bhattji through our dialogue and discussion and experience, through our Shastriji 20 years ago when I heard his lecture, 1 or 2 lectures when I came to Vyasa to hear from our Nagendraji and others. So what I have just told is, it's purely based on these messages and the lectures of the stalwarts, and going through the entire Yoga Vasishta, both the Lagu Vasishta, I thought there is enough to learn. It is a lifetime understanding and experience. I am sure we'll have more interactions like that. So I offer my grateful thanks to all the office bearers of the Yoga Bharati and to our Yoga Shri Dr. Raghuramji, Prabha Krishna Vidya Ramani and Miss Vijaya and others for giving me an opportunity to share of my few babbling thoughts on Yoga Vasishta. Namaskar, Dhanyavad.
Thank you, sir. There is a question here saying,
Please.
you were saying that Sankalpa is so very important.
Yes.
Right. And then along with Sankalpa, that Abhyasa and Vairagya also goes along.
Yes.
With that Sankalpa. So how do we manage this
Sankalpa,
in our day-to-day
in
life
fact,
and day-to-day activities?
Yes. Here, about Sankalpa, Brahmarshi Vasishta devotes several chapters in Utpatti Prakarana. In that Utpatti Prakarana, he elaborates and says we should have Sankalpa or good conviction and good determination. Sankalpa is very much required to move over and move forward. But that Sankalpa should not affect me, the people around me, with me, and society in general. It should go beyond the individual desire, and it should touch basically the global welfare. It's called Lokahita. That Sankalpa is generally appreciated than the Sankalpa to get money and other things.
Okay, thank you. Raghuramji, your view on this? If both of you, Raghuramji and Ramchandra Bhattji, both of you can share your thoughts also on this. Yeah, Raghuramji.
In fact, as Sridharji has already said one thing very beautiful, that is, mind itself has the ability, or it's not the question of mind, the ability, what is called as Sankalpa, Vikalpa is the thing what we call it as mind. Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha, that is, mind itself is like that. So in one sense that it's a tool, and we work with that tool called mind wherever it is necessary. That's why we have to have Sankalpa to do that, or in the other words, Sankalpa is a way that mind works. And then also simultaneously Vikalpa, that means I choose something, I leave something behind. This is how we work. But only thing is that when he says that we give up the Sankalpa, which is very basic thought of the whole philosophy itself, The whole Indian philosophy emphasizes on that idea. Idea is essentially that there is a stage where you don't even have to, you have to calm down the mind and go beyond. Otherwise, mind is like a ladder. Mind is like a staircase. It's beautiful. It is very nice. Like, first time a friend of mine, I took him to USA in Houston. The first time he saw the escalator. And then we went into the shopping mall there. He was fascinated by the escalator. And then I left him for an hour because we were having some discussions and all those things, but he left alone. He went round the escalator up and down for 1 hour. I said, did you go to the shopping at all? He said, no, I was on the escalator. So we need sankalpa, but don't get on to hold on to the sankalpa, then go beyond. And that is what we need to do. And that's what is elaborately said about. You see, that the beauty of the whole philosophy thinking is that nothing is bad, at the same time, nothing is absolute. And that's why he brought about very beautifully, Sridharji, that it's Maya, it is Mithya. That means it's not that it is to be rejected, but it is something that you hold on to, understand, use it, and then go beyond. This is what is the idea of Sankalpa. Many other concepts that are there in the Indian philosophy which talk about in this way. See that how we can transcend these things, and that's what again and again emphasized by our philosophy. Particularly, Ramchandra Bhattji has recollected the whole concept of yoga right from the Vedas and the Puranas and all those things. He said very nice thing. Puranas are not like the stories that we think of. They have a message to convey. And that absolute message that Puranas convey to us and the Vedas, all that Upanishads that are there in this particular Yoga VAsishta. In fact, when you read the Yoga VAsishta, Brihat Yoga VAsishta, 32,000 shlokas, there are several places where that you can find the sentences which were there in the Upanishad bodily here. There are so many sentences which are there from the Puranas which are bodily taken here, which looks very fascinating. And of course, there were so many shlokas from Bhagavad Gita directly brings about in Yoga VAsishta. And many times they are also little bit changed here and there, but then they have applied. So that means to say, as Ramchandra Bhattji said, that it is like the whole treatise of the whole Indian philosophy that is contained in this Yoga VAsishta. Very beautiful analysis that is given. It's a journey which takes us all the way from the Gomak right up to the Kashi. And that's what is the beauty of this Yoga VAsishta that is there. In that context, that we need to have Sankalpa, but we need to go beyond that Sankalpa, where Sankalpa also that we surrender it. That's why we have such a beautiful thing in our practices where we say, we do every puja, everything very devoted way with all our devotion and all those things. At the end of it, we say, Narayanait Samarpayami, or Ishwararparamastu, Brahmarpanamastu. So that's why we give away that aspect of it. Then only that we can raise beyond that, or in the words, we can become one with the Brahman. That's what is the message that Sankalpa has to be dissolved. Thank you.
Yeah, Raghuramji, there is a question here saying that
Yeah.
how would I know what kind of sankalpa should I take in my journey in wherever the journey of life I am in? So what kind of sankalpa? One, I think one which Professor Sridhar shared was the sankalpa should be for the lokahita. So is there anything else that can be taken as a sankalpa?
Vivekananda gives two things together. Right. Of course, he takes it from the Upanishads, from the Vedas itself. He says that Atmano Mokshatta Jagat Hitaya. That means the sankalpa should have two important pronged approach. One approach is that it has to give the lokahita, but at the same time, it is to develop the idea of Atmana Moksha. When he said about Atmano Mokshartha, that means to say, it's not just only the journey of moksha for myself, but it is a journey towards the moksha of the whole of mankind. Then only it is Jagat Hitaya. In the sense that I do something for the mankind. So I do some all other odd kind of things for the people because that they need that, they require that, and then that will help them. Fine, you can give that, but you also see that is it taking them away from the Atmana Moksha or is it taking them towards the Atmana Moksha? This is what we need to see. When we do that way, probably that we'll be able to really approach them in the Sankalpa way in that sense. And third aspect of Sankalpa is to see that I also feel this way that Sankalpa is something. Is this whole Sankalpa, is this practice that we are doing, is it trying to embellish my ego, or is it something which is going to dissolve the ego? This is also another part that we need to really be keeping in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Raghuramji. Ramchandra Bhattji, can you share your thoughts on this? And also there's a question about a little more thought or ideas on how vasanas can vasanas also affect our sankalpa?
Certainly. As I went on understanding our deliberations here, main thing is whether we go for psychosynthesis or psychoanalysis. These so-called Western psychologists, they go for psychoanalysis. That is why their understanding is very much lopsided. But this rare resource, Yoga VAsishta, it deals with that technique of synthesis, psychic synthesis. There, the main area is this vasana analysis, vasana kshaya. So there are two types of vasana. That is what Vasishta says here. One is Shuddha Vasana and Malina Vasana. Two Shuddha Vasana, Malina Vasana. Until we go beyond mind level, as it was portrayed by Gaudapada Karika in Asparsha Yoga. Asparsha Yoga Vainama. That is how he puts it. Oh, custom. He only says this Asparsha Yoga, going beyond mind, is very difficult, highly challenging. There only we can have full control on our vasanas. Otherwise, this vasana is Shubha, Ashubha, both mixed. Punya and Papa mixed. Mangala, Amangala mixed. Tamaha, Rajaha, Sattvam mixed. That is why in this type of blending, our yatra, it is very much controlled by our own vasanas. That is why even very great people, all great dharmic people like Yudhishthira, he commits very silly errors, Even Rama also, he could not stop him for chasing some deer, golden. Ramenapi kathanna hema harinasya asambhavo lakshitah. That is why great Subhadhyakara laughs at Rama. A great man like Rama could not stop him. So that Sita told him, go and just bring that golden deer. He went like that. Nobody is free from vasana. That is why only we can do that. We can purify our vasanas by sadhana. That is why this understanding is very fine. Vasana is divided into two, as Vasishta told, Shuddha and Malina. We have to make it Shuddha. That understanding is beautiful. In the same time, I just remembered Shankaracharya's insight here. He compared our mind to a tiger in his Vivek Chudamani. Tiger, Manonama Mahavyagraha. He described like that. Manonama Mahavyagraha Vishayaranya Bhumishu Charati Aho. That is how he described it. Aho Natishtantu Sadhavaha. All good people be aware of this. Some tiger is roaming here and there. Protect yourself. That is how Shankara Bhagavad gave this type of warning to all seekers like you and I. That is why a very good question asked by some of our friends. That is why mind analysis, more than that, psychosynthesis, that is very much necessary now. Just we have to take mind as such, as some people say. As there are various vrittis, modifications are taking place in our manonama, and in this manokanana, actually manokanana, kanana means aranya. There these tigers are moving, many negative vrittis are moving, as we know. That is why we become slaves of such negative vrittis. That is how vasanas, they control our behavior. That is why only yoga abhyasa is the panacea for this. Just to have that equilibrium. I don't use any word like control, controlling or suppressing. These are not at all possible. Only we can go for sublimation by adopting our purification mechanism by Ashtanga Yoga and Tapaswadhyaya Shira Pranidhana. And here this is calming system. So that I call it mind reading technique and mind calming system. MRT in the light of Yoga VAsishta. That means how to read mind. Just like you mentioned about Vasana. What are those vrittis or vasanas dancing in my mental arena, in Mano Angan, in Mano Darpana, or Mano Manasa Sarovara? Yes, another word. Manasa Sarovara, it is a lake. Manasa Sarovara. There are how many swans are there, how many other type of birds are moving. These things we have to search. That is MRT, mind reading technique. That must be followed by MTT, mind transformation technique. That technique here projected by great Vasishta Maharshi, that is called mind calming. It is not tranquilizing or calming also. There also again now for tranquilizing many medicines and drugs are used. That is why that is different word. Only transformation, mind, MTT, mind transformation technique. That is what portrayed in these thousands of slokas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There is one question here which says that the students of IIT and who have joined medicine, now they think that they are highly intellectual, but they also are pass through this Vishada. So how do we make them understand? How do we make them understand this knowledge? Is one question which is being asked by a doctor.
Okay, very good. Thank you for asking questions. Very practical question. Very much supported by experience. That is why such questions they draw our attention more. Here, friends, thing is we befriended outer situations, and correspondingly its impact is measured in our mental arena. As is the catching area, like that water will be there. Catchment area, that is called. Now our catchment area is very much corrupt. That is why even though water is stored in the dam mind, water is polluted. That is why first of all we must prepare proper catchment areas from which area we can obtain flow of pure water, pure water. That is why I request all our ITBT friends, more and more you be in the company of good people, loving people. That is an art of loving and art of living. It is called. So that in the midst of so much rush and so much active multifarious activities in your system, life system, at least get up early in the morning. During that time, mind is very calm, free from burning vasanas. However, even most burning man also, if he gets a proper sleep, as soon as he gets up early in the morning, mind is comparatively free. It is not so much burning and boiling. Somewhere it is blooming. During that time, just go for Omkara meditation, mind will be purified, my friends. That is the only very easy panacea, that too in this so-called sorrow-stricken world, problem-stricken world. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So, Raghuramji, would you like to share
Yeah.
something about this?
So let me give some ideas about that. You see, what we say, beautifully said, Amalavasana, that is Shuddhavasana, and then vasanas which are bad. If anything is like black and white, clearly, it's easy for us to take away the black and then go ahead with the white. If it is something like when there is light, you always see that behind the light, you always find a shadow of yours that is there. So both these things are forming. If it is only like that, then it would have been easy. But why is it complicated? Because the simple thing is that the whole thing is not that easy, in the sense that the moment that we have in association with something, and second time, the third time that we come across, even the second time we come across, immediately we have the memory of that within us. It makes us life simple. It makes our life very simple. So therefore, I met a person, I made it remember, oh, yesterday I met you. So I know what you are and what your question is. Today I will answer. So this is how basically that we have this memory. It's a wonderful ability that we have. But what happens is, this is what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita also, and it is so much connected with the vasana and samskara. That is, the association is something which is, moment that we think of him, we remember of him or anything that is there. This is what is dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. That's the beginning of it. At that point of time, it looks very benign. It looks not very dangerous for us, but at the same time, it looks very helpful. Yes, it is really helpful for us. People who come to Prashanti for the first day, and then our instructor there will say that you go for Annapurna for food, you go to this place for this thing, and they really get confused because these names that they are not familiar with, where to go, how to go, and all that. Many ask that question also, and they said, okay, somebody will take you there, somebody will take you to this. So like that they will introduce. So now they are becoming familiar. So to become familiar is something which is very important, innate in our nature. In order to see that becomes familiar, that's why we have the structure called as mind. So therefore, we make use of it. So therefore, what happens is that association brings about this memory, but then slowly what happens, then the memory, if it stays only at that level, fine, but later on, we start becoming dependent on that. When we start dependent on that, that means to say that memory that is there, association created, is now percolated to deep into us, our system, deep into our system. And when it happens with, say, a place like, where we used to go and all that, that's okay. But with the object, when we start becoming like that, then, or with even a person also, then the dependency develops. And this dependency is the level where we start calling as, in English language, call it as habit. And when this habit further deepens, this is what is called as vasana. That means to say that what is that dependence? Dependence is that for my making my life comfortable, that I depend on particular object, particular thing. That is fine. But then when it percolates into our physiology, starts interfering with our physiology, our normal behavior, then we call it as vasana. At vasana level, the same dependency start giving me trouble if that object is not there. If the object is not provided, we look for the object, we run for the object. Slowly, what happens is that becomes like our vasana. At vasana level, it's only at the physiological level that we say. Like, for example, just getting up in the morning, having a cup of chai, cup of coffee. People have the habit, and it becomes like a habit. That means you get up, you look for that. That's fine. But then what happens is that over a period of time, without even your knowledge, without even knowing about that, it percolates into our physiology. That means to say, it starts interfering with our physiology. It is no more just a simple habit. Without that, people say that I develop headache. Without morning coffee, I develop. If he develops headache, that's fine. But if he becomes our headache, then really problem comes. Because where we don't get that kind of coffee and all that. So therefore, that it becomes like vasana. But then further it goes deeper into our subconscious levels. Then we call it as samskara. So therefore, all these things can become slowly vasana, and vasana becomes samskara. It's a progressive way that it goes towards that. But therefore, there are certain samskaras which are good for us. That's what he says, that Shubha Vasana or Amala Vasana, good Vasana. These are supposed to be the Vasanas which will help you in the right direction. Whereas Mala Vasana, they are Shuddha Vasanas. There are Shuddha Vasanas, Mala Vasanas are the Vasanas. When they become samskara, then they lead us into the wrong direction, wrong way. When is it become like an Amala Vasana or the Malavasana or the Ashuddha Vasana is where it is no more looking like something which is mounted on us from outside, but we start looking at as that is something which is very important. Like, for example, people say that Krodha becomes like a Vasana so deep inside, then getting anger, becoming angry doesn't seem to be anything bad. In fact, they substantiate argument saying that if I don't get angry, how that person will be corrected? And after all, he is a child. If you do not become angry, the child will go in the wrong direction. So this becomes like as if this vasana is the main important thing of yours. And if you are Brahman, you are free from all these things. You don't have any attachment of them. So this is what is the vasana that is developed. There's another important idea that Yoga VAsishta brings about in the context of vasana. It's beautiful. That is, a Shuddha Vasana, Amala Vasana is that Vasana is in the form of, yes, running behind the object. You run behind the object. But Amala Vasana is that the speed can come down over a period of time. In fact, the normal way of our food and other things, lifestyle that is created in our culture is that once that you provide that, afterwards you don't run behind the object, you can leave you can leave it behind and then be peaceful without getting this is what is called a Shuddha Vasana. Vasana is there, but I can slow down. But whereas Malavasana is that which increases our speed, we becoming more and more fast and the whole process. In fact, that's why Yoga VAsishta puts this idea called as Vasana as Vega. And when it is Vega, we need to control the Vasanas Vega. He says that it's only through the Prana Vega that you control, therefore that Chitta Vega that you can remove that. So this is what is the idea that he brings about as far as the Vasana is concerned. And a lot of details are given in the Yoga VAsishta about these Vasanas. Very clearly, he says that Vasana is there. Abhyasena vina rama naudeti brahma bhavana brahmachit brahma bhavanam brahma bhuta paratparaha vasanaya taya vakme runa vyati Dvishamapi, and so all these things, whether it is disease, whether it is a animosity or the death, all those things are created because of in the form of vasanas. So therefore, one has to be very cautious about these vasanas, particularly these malavasanas and the difficult vasanas that you create. In fact, it is another way that I could explain that. In the beginning, we think that we require money for the sake of our living, but then slowly after that, a time will come when people start becoming that they start living for the sake of money. Money was needed for living. Then slowly what happens? Money becomes the boss. You live for the money. And you don't even think that money is really helping you to live. Then you doubt about that. So this is how basically vasanas over a period of time rule us. We have to be very careful about that. Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Sridhar, there is one question here saying that we all know that Ravana was a Mahajnani and Mahabrahmana, but he also committed a grave mistake. So how does one understand this? So maybe all three can answer.
See,
According to
as far
you.
as Ravana was concerned, maybe he was a Mahabrahmana, but he had the Rajasic and Tamasic aspect of the mind, not Sattva. He was overpowered by Tamas and Rajas. That was the reason. And there is a famous epitome, witty saying says, Atikami Dashagrivaha Ati Sarvatra Varjaye. He was extremely passionate. He was sensuous with respect to Sita, how he demanded, how he abducted her and finally placed her day in and day out, came and requested to be his wife. Although he had beautiful wives and wonderful wife like Mandodari was there, still he was obsessed with Sita because of passion or kama. In fact, that was told in the Saubari story in the Vishnu Purana. You know that Najatu kama kamena upabhogena shamyati havisha krishnavartmeva bhuya eva bhivardate. This is very evident in the Vishnu Purana story of Seth Saubari, where kama or passion or desire can never be quenched by kama or desire. It gets more and more enhanced, like pouring the ghee to the fire, it comes out with engulfing flames. So that way it has only to be subdued and diverted. Ravana failed in that. That was the greatest mistake of Ravana.
Thank you, sir. There's a question here, Ramchandra Bhattji. You said that in the, which is that Viveka Chudamani, he compares the mind to a tiger. So there's somebody who has asked that, is mind supposed to be a tiger at some time or lamb at some times? So how do we, and more the sadhana I do, I feel that the mind is becoming like a lamb. So is that I'm trying to calm down the tiger?
That is okay. It depends upon that combination, blending of three gunas. When both tamas and rajas combined, more rajas, it is kshipta, always boiling. That is tiger type. Another mind, it is tamas is more, rajas is supporting. Then it becomes a Kumbhakarna's mind. As you told, lamb, always sleeping. When he is sleeping, he is like a lamb. When he is awakened, he is like a tiger. Same Kumbhakarna, you can see both. But we have to make our mind like pure Pampa Sarovara, or it is a Nadi. Valmiki puts it, Ramaniyam Prasannambu Sanmanushya Mano Yatha. Ramaniyam, beautiful, and the water is so pure, very transparent, free from all contamination. That type of water which Valmiki could see there in that Nadi, Tamasa Nadi, where he just could come with such outpouring of Ramayana, the first sloka, Manishada, Pratishtantu Magama Shashwati Sama. Spontaneous overflow took place from Valmiki. Where that tamasa, because that water itself was Sanmanushya Manahayatha, as mind of a good man, positively charged man, positively inclined man, essentially divine. Such type of mind we have to develop by sadhana only. Then no question of any tigers or that Matsyam Makaram Makaramana Markatamana Matsyamana Vyagramana, all type of manas are there. But ultimately we must make it Manasamana, means Manasa Sarovara, water type Manaha. That is the main purpose of our Yoga Yatra. That Yoga Yatra is well portrayed, effectively portrayed, so beautifully portrayed in this magnum opus Vasishta, Yoga Vasishta, Yoga Nama. Okay.
You also said that, we need to develop that art of loving and art of living. And also in yesterday's talk, Raghuramji also mentioned about Shastra Sajjana Samparka, Sambandha also. So, but then nowadays, youngsters, if you see, they want to be around with their friends and their peers. Shastra Sambandha is, for them, it is like a far away, a distant thing. They feel, no, what is the use of Shastra and Sajjana, Samparka and all that. So how do we explain that to them?
Okay, fine. Now I have so much proximity with all type of minds, all bees, bubbling, boiling, blooming, burning, all. Because I am in the midst of these so-called young minds. I was in this Janaseva school complexes where for more than 4 decades I am in the midst of young minds. So that I got that opportunity to enrich my own experience while dealing with such minds. Vyagramana, Makaramana, Markatamana, all type of mana. But when we just go inside, that water still it is pure. As we know, in all lakes and even Pampa Sarovara, sometimes some boars or some buffaloes enter, then the water will be impure, turned. But early in the morning when we see water, that water, all those unwanted dirt and everything go to its beneath, its low level, bottom level, and water will be so much pure. Like that, even those corrupt mind also have some inner core part where they have that positivity. That is why that part we have to touch and address. That is why I repeatedly say it is art of loving, art of living, both. When that too, when they are in troubles, when they only realize that their lifestyle is not so good, mindset is negatively charged, so that I am suffering. In that type of situation, we have to touch them. Their mind will be a little bit free from vasanas, little bit calm and quiet. Now every person is in trouble. Either vyadhi or adhi, psychosomatic problem. Every person from top to bottom, from American president to Aam Aadmi. Now, because mind is like that. In this type of juncture, we have to address. And in small group, we have to conduct counseling and talk to them. Not just big address and all these things, nothing used for it will be Sometime even in that type of atmosphere also, very ambience, very vibration may create some temporary change. It may bring, but it is to be individual addressed. I have done that, and took them to some calm and quiet, positively charged Mahatmas. When they talk to them, they will be very happy and they get motivated. That is how this type of slow and steady chittam samvasata jneyam taccha kalena bhuyasa. Continuously, we have to watch their minds. Where they have that little touch of positivity, where they have weakness, where every person is got its own strength and weakness. Shubha, Ashubha, both Ubhabhyam, Punyapapabhyam, Manusham Labhate Avasha. Any person you say, you great spiritual masters, they also have some weak points. There they will be ready to receive something. There they will be free from their ego. There we have to touch them, they have to talk to them, and we have to exchange their feelings. We must talk to them. This is the only way to understand them and to help them. It is not that we are changing, bringing transformation, nothing. Only we can help them. With that much humbleness, we must approach. We must develop proximity with those young minds. They accept it. But more, I feel that more than our British minds, Indian minds, British tempted Indian minds, I don't blame them. Now they are beyond 60, 70. These young, boiling, burning minds are less dangerous. We can just bring them to the proper track and change them. Because receptivity is more, receiving mindset is there. That is why any such young people, we can transform them slowly, helping them. That is my experience, my humble submission.
Thank you, sir. See, all three of you said that
Beautifully,
sadhana.
very beautifully said by Ramchandra Bhattji. Actually, I would also like to add to what he said to strengthen that whole thought in a positive direction. That is, if you read Vivekananda's very first talk that he gave in USA, even before he was accepted in the Parliament of World Religion, but before that, when he was in Boston, he gave a talk, first talk. The very first talk he gave, the time has come. The world changes in the direction that is good for the world. It's like the sun rises. When he said like that, the author who quoted about that, what Vivekananda said, it was like a Buddha sitting there and speaking from the depth of the consciousness itself, and said that maybe, my God, that this is going to change today. But immediately after that, Vivekananda added, when I say now, it can be about 100 years. But in the span of life, 100 years is nothing. It was like a prophetic way that he said. When you look at that way, what Bhakti said, gives such a beautiful idea. If you look at this whole culture about 50, 100 years ago, where was it? We didn't even have a confidence in that our own philosophy, our own ideas, our own values that we talk about. From there, what a wonderful journey that we have made in the last, say, about 70, 80 years that we have made after the freedom. That today we are able to see that various areas that Indian philosophy, Indian thought is entering, and that it is entering into the youngsters' mind. Like, for example, in the colleges, in the schools that it is starting. So therefore, basically, the transformation is happening in such a way that people are really realizing the beauty of, particularly youngsters are realizing the beauty and the extraordinary value of the values that Indian culture is given. The Swasana is definitely changing in the right direction, the way that I look at it, in the last about 50, 60 years of the change in the perception of the people that's happened.
Actually,
Yeah,
Ramchandra
Professor.
Bhattji has clearly told how we can motivate and inspire youngsters. We are not giving them advices. We only tell them that we are facilitators, as
Right.
elaborated by Raghuramji. We have to go and talk to them as facilitators to clear their doubts, apprehensions, and so on, so that they will accept these thoughts and ideas. So that way, it is possible to bring in change over a period of time. The All India Council of Technical Education has started this movement for the engineering students, through what you call it as cultural immersion or induction. So when they enter the portals of engineering, first semester, first week, second week, they will be given a lot of thoughts and ideas about these Indian knowledge systems, values, and so on, so that a few of them may pick it up. We need not accept the entire engineering community to take up, but even if one takes up and moves in the right direction, he can bring in the change over a period of time. So that is a good thing happening now, along with the Vivekananda thought being slowly percolated to schools and colleges. That was, very well brought out by Sri Raghuramji and our Acharya ji.
Yeah, thank you. So all of you said that sadhana is so very important. So in that mind reading technique and then later mind transformation technique. So can you tell us, or somebody has asked, can you suggest few sadhanas that we need to do? And I think when we are doing the sadhana, it is not that, oh, I have learned my yoga in 1 month. It has been said that it has to be dhrida abhyasa and dirgha kala, right? So how do we maintain this dhrida abhyasa and continue it for dirgha kala?
Actually, we have the best practitioners, Raghuramji and Ramchandra Bhattji. They should throw light upon there. More than theoretical, it is a practical, dynamic, proactive session. And I'm sure he is going to give guidelines in this regard. Raghuramji, please, and Ramchandra Bhattji.
Actually, these days, thank you so much, Sridharji, for the confidence that you have. The idea is that these days, people, there is so much of information that is given in such a way that right lifestyle, right practice, right these things are useful even for your performance in the world outside. Like, for example, you have to improve your skills in education, skills in the examinations, and the skills in the sports and the management and all those things. You see that how many other different ways that this practice of Indian systems that's been introduced into the whole thing. It is such a way that it has happened that there was a time when you take up the magazines, you hardly see anything about yoga. Any movie or anything like that, there's absolutely nothing about yoga at all. Whereas today, even the ordinary movies that you take it, there's always a reference about yoga, reference about right kind of food, reference about, and magazines, like for example, in the aircraft, when you see this, the airlines magazine is there, you open the page, definitely there is one page on yoga. So it looks like that people are regularly, that there is a suggestion to see that you do the yoga, some form or the other of yoga. Abhyasa is something which is suggested to us. So therefore, what happens is today, it is much more motivating because that you come across this, not in the form of, it is not, you are odd man out. That feeling is gone anymore. So people are turning towards this particular sadhana. So as Siddharthi said, we'll have to wait so that the world is going in the right direction. We'll pick it up.
Yeah, thank you, Raghuramji. Ramchandra Bhattji, are you there? Can you give in your suggestion and then also, give us a gist of the talk?
Okay.
Yeah.
Om. Yes, yoga is very much experiential, not something academic. That is why I always talk about yogic evening and yogic morning. Our evening is corrupt. It is non-yogic. It is rogic. That's what joke I am talking now. Rogic. That is why morning becomes also corrupt. This particular insight, it is very well guided by our Jyotir Vijnana. We cannot go for any that compartment apartments. In our Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, it is a big banyan tree type. It is. So every Shastra is interconnected, intertwined. This understanding is very important for us. According to our Jyotir Vijnana, 24 hours divided into 30 muhurtas. 30 muhurtas. Among them, this Brahma Muhurta and Amrita Muhurta early in the morning, from more or less 3:30 a.m., that is the yogic, where we can ignite our whole antenna, this Dhi supercomputer. It is called Brahmavaloka Dhishanam in Bhagavata. That's a Dhi supercomputer. That is to be activated. That is the first lesson, Prathama Patha of yoga. That is where we are not equipping ourselves. After sunrise, sunset, we go for all meditations, this and that, big exercises, heart, heat, yogas. But very important thing is missing, miserably missing, that is Amrita Muhurta and Brahma Muhurta is not taken care of by all, most 90%, 95% yogis. That is very highly alarming thing I am just bringing to your notice. That is why now we must think afresh. And we have to make it this whole yoga experiential. Sakshatkara rupamidam. Not only something bodha shodha, academic or research. That is good. Research is great, no doubt. But it is more and more experiential. For that, we must practice our Jaina Muni discipline. That means we must take very less food after the sun sets. Or we have to go for liquid food after sunset. There we go for this type of habit of late night meals. Most dangerous. Whatever yoga practice you do, your late night intake, tamasic, rajasic, even sattvic food will be polluted there. Though you take some very sattvic food after 9 o'clock, after 9 p.m., 10 p.m., it will be corrupt. It will be totally tamasic. And even your own antenna, you don't close it, you keep it active so that it takes all sarpakirana. After the sun sets, the whole atmosphere will be engulfed by tamasic negative sarpa rays, cosmic rays. That is called sarpa rays in the Vedic context. Go rays, Ashwa rays and sarpa rays. Go and Ashwa cosmic energies coming from solar and lunar origins, they are good. That will be active early in the morning in Amrita Muhurta and Brahma Muhurta. That is the real time for yoga practice. There we don't do. In that particular Muhurta we don't do. That is why depending upon that auspicious Muhurta and inauspicious Muhurtas, whatever yoga we practice, its effect will be there. That is why yogic evening, that means food, what I suggested, that type of pathya, ahara pathya, And Viharapatya means you have to close your Brahmarandra. That means you must go for sleep. Then naturally it will be supporting to yogic morning. That means Amrita Muhurta comes, you will be happy to wake up and start sadhana in Brahma Muhurta. This awareness is very, very important. That is why now we have to educate our people. Even all yoga practitioners, all sadhakas also, they have problems now. Psychological problems. Great yogis becoming melancholic. Abruptly. That is why we have to be very much careful. With this much insight, let us take help of Vasishtha and let us be very humble seekers like Sri Ramachandra, and let us try to have that type of guidance. Now even it is not Bharata Bhumi is great yoga bhumi. There are many great gurus, but we must search for them. And certainly we go through proper channel, we can search such gurus, they are available, but they will not be in the public domains and your big propaganda world. They will be somewhere in some silent, solitary places. Such gurus we have to surrender, then certainly we get enlightenment. That is the only way. Thank you very much for all organizers and other seekers. Namaste Tubhyam.
Thank you, Vidwan Ramchandra Bhatt, Professor Sridhar ji, and thanks to Raghuram ji for a wonderful insight. So the only way I think for us is sadhana, and then also the sankalpa that there is a higher reality. And like how I think Ramchandra Bhatt ji says, whether it's an aam admi or aam khane wala admi. So for that, I was reminded of Saint Tyagaraja's one song, where he says that Rama Namamu Janma Rakshaka Mantram. So can we, have that, saying that, if we can just say that Rama Nama can be a, Rakshaka Mantra for all of us. So here I would like to, before I end and hand it over to Prabha Krishna, there is a Kabir Doha where he says that Mali avat deki kai, Mali avat deki kai, Kaliyan kahe pukar, Fuli fuli chun lai, kal hamari bar. So here, when the gardener approaches, the buds, they are talking to themselves, saying that the gardener has come and he is plucking the full-blown flowers, and tomorrow it will be our turn. So Kabir implies that man should be conscious of the transient nature of his life and seek refuge in a higher reality. So with that, I would like Prabha Krishna, the Secretary of Yoga Bharati, to give the vote of thanks. So over to Prabha.
Namaste. Namaste to everyone, and pranams to all the dignitaries as well as Raghuramji. I am here speaking here as a secretary of Yoga Bharati, but also an ardent student of all of you. It was so wonderful and so insightful to hear the session about mind, because I think more and more we hear about the mind, more and more there is a doubt about mind. Somebody was taking about, Prabha, it was a mind-blowing session about mind. So I was like wondering what was the blowing aspect about the mind which blowed me is what I absolutely liked the concept about the art of loving and the act of developing compassion towards the youngsters, towards everyone, and that also very much touched me. And today I just came to hear about an experiment by a Japanese scientist who it seems had kept several glasses of water, and he was giving every day a sankalpa to each glass, a very different sankalpa to each glass. To one glass he went on saying, I love you very much. To another he said, I really hate you very much. To another, I will kill you. To another, you are filled with love and compassion. To another, I am filled with peace. And it seems after 15 days he checked the whatever the microscopic structure of each water, and the designs of the water was so interesting, of whatever affirmations or sankalpa he was giving to each water glass, and he found that there is more symmetrical design for the positive or the positive sankalpa, and there was absolutely opaque and asymmetrical design for the sankalpa, which is more diminishing for the body. So that itself is indicating of like what is the power of sankalpa to our mind, the power of satsanga for all of us, because it really helps us to put that seeds of thought into our head. And I keep telling our Yoga Bharati people also that by hearing more and more about mind, it will help us to understand ourselves, even though maybe some aspects might be little blown out of my head, but some aspects would be really there, which is going to be really touching my heart, and I could really take in some things which I could follow it. So for on that aspect, I really thank all the speakers here for this wonderful, beautiful session of Mana Prashamana Upayaha, and all the 2 days about mind and consciousness. We have received a lot of wonderful feedbacks for everyone. So once more, I extend my gratitude to each one of you. And also Ramakrishna ji was not present here, but Ramakrishna ji also, I really extend my gratitude and pranams to all of them. I thank you one and all. And I hope all the people who have gathered here to attend this panel discussion have had a very enriching as also an enlivening session, and you have a lot of takeaway messages, like I think like Sridharji and Bhatji mentioned, Vidwan Bhatji mentioned, it should be an experiential knowledge rather than not logging off and then you're just logged off everything. It is like you're constantly logged in the mind level and understanding. So I think that logging in aspect is so important for all of us. So let's all close the session. So Raghuramji wants to add in anything here, Raghuramji?
Wonderful session, very enlightening and very absorbing kind of a session. And I was also looking at the comments from the people. That's also very satisfying kind of convention. I think Yoga Bharati is now encouraged to more and more this kind of satsang kind of seminars. That is very, very important. And particularly, as you rightly said, that we have focused towards the youngsters, and that's very important. YB Youth Group is also now planning to develop, and it will be handled by youth, but it is in this direction to see that how we can take the future of India in the right direction. So with the spiritual background, this is what is the dream purpose idea of this particular session that we are doing. Lovely session. Thank you so much for particularly people like Ramchandra Bhatji and Sridhar. Actually, right from the beginning when we conceived this idea, Sridharji has been always giving me ideas and discussing about this while traveling together informally, formally, and all that. It was a very enriching experience, and it was a nice association that we had together with that. Thanks, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you. And we would really request for more and more such enlivening sessions by both of you, because I really feel that more and more interaction and question answers interaction really gives more benefit to every one of us. It was so interesting. It made the session very, very active and involving, actually, to say. The people asking questions and you are all answering your own perspectives. So we would really be very, very grateful if we had more and more such interactive sessions with you to share, so that we could hear more from you. Since we have this online, so it becomes more and more comfortable to have that reach also. Thank you so much. Shall we all close the session? Paying gratitude to the Almighty for this beautiful day. And for anniversary day of Yoga Bharati, may we nourish all Sahanau Bunaktu. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Namaste. Thank you, Sridharji. Thank you, Raghuramji. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Namaskar. Dhanyavad.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.